So how do we do that? How do we implement the code into our project? How do we get to a point where we can have this right here become more interactive? So what I'll do is I'll actually increase the size of this. We'll increase the size to, yeah, because this was really small. So we'll increase the size to, let's say 0.1, and then we'll move it up to about there. Yeah, it's about there. So what we'll do is I will actually, instead of adding the script to this directly, what we can do is we could add it to an empty object, and that empty object will be the one being rotated and scaled. And because the model will be in the empty object, then it allows it for a more seamless integration. And so what we'll do is we'll go to ground plane stage, we'll right click, we'll go to create empty object, and by creating that empty object, it gives us an opportunity to sort of keep this at ground zero. And so you'll notice how when I click on the model, the center point is at the top, is pretty much in the center of the face. But if I have the game object, we'll have this in the center. This stays in the center of the actual ground plane, which makes things so much easier. And so now we'll name this game object model anchor. Yeah, we'll just do model anchor, and we'll actually put the model into the model anchor right there. So it doesn't need to change, but all we have to do is we'll be changing this, and this makes it a whole lot easier than, you know, changing all of these different things. And so again, we'll go ahead, save the project. Okay, so from there we will add our rotate script and we'll add our scale script. And so when we add them, all we're just going to do is just drag and drop. And so when we have our scripts, the thing that you notice is that it says rotate slider and scale slider. These are going to be the things that are going to be controlling the empty object that has the model in it. And so all we have to do is say, okay, we have our scale slider. We'll go and we'll just drag and drop the scale slider to where it belongs. Alternatively, if you have a whole bunch of different sliders, you don't know where they are, you could go to the circle with the dot in it, and you could find whatever slider that you want. So it looks like we want the rotate slider. We'll just go ahead, click rotate slider, double click that, and it's right there. And so now just those simple steps allowed us to create an anchor so that we have the controller, which is the sliders, and then we have whatever's being controlled, which is the model, and we've married the two. And really the model anchor is the bridge to that for the actual model. And so before we start, we need to dive deep into actually making sure the sliders are ready to go. And you have to do that by clicking the slider and scrolling down to where it says slider. So slider, scale slider, we'll click that, go into the inspector, and we want to make sure that the values are right. Because if the values are not right, then it's going to mess things up. So when something gives at 0 scale, that means that it doesn't have any value. And a perfect example is when I change this to 0, it takes it away, right? It doesn't exist. So we want to make sure that it exists at every point in the update frame while you use an augmented reality. We don't want it to go away. So we want to make sure that this is never going to be 0. It could be 0.1. It could be 0.05. It could be whatever you want it to be, but you don't want it to be 0. And then also want to make sure that the max value is also going to be right. And so what we will do is we will say that this can be point, we'll say this could be 4. And so we could always change that at the end, but actually, we'll see, because this could end up being just really, really huge, which can also make a statement as well. And so we have that with our scale slider. We're looking at the size of it from 0.05 to 4. So 0.05 is just a fraction of its original size, and then 4 is 4 times its original size. So go ahead, save it, save the project. Next thing is we're going to look at the rotate slider. So the rotate slider, again, we're going to click rotate slider, and then we're going to go to slider in the inspector, and we're going to look at this. So when we're talking about angles, right now it says angle 0 and angle 1. Angle 1 is just 1 degree, and we don't want that. And so we want to make sure that 0 is still the same, because 0 is probably going to be our minimum value. And then the next one would be 360, would be the max value, because when we're looking at a circle, the angles go from 0 to 360, or 0 to 359, or 1 to 360. Doesn't really matter, as long as this is either 0 or 1 and this is 359 or 360. That gives us a full circle of rotation. And from there, then we'll make sure that this is whole numbers instead of fractions of a number, because we do not want there to be too many values that you could choose from. You know, it doesn't matter if it's angle 1 or angle 1.5, it's pretty much going to be the same. So just make it easy on the software to update those things. So now that we have that set, 0 to 360 for the rotation, and then 0.05 to 4 for the slider, we'll go ahead and test this out. And then after we test this out, we're going to build out the app and try that out in the real world. So what I'm going to do is, as I test it out, I'll just click the play button. We have our cursor. I'll select it. We'll try the rotation. The rotation works. And we'll try the scale. And the scale works. Just like that.